Lancaster County Planning Commission in regards to the CIP process. Paul Barnes, please take it over.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Paul Barnes with the Planning Department in the Long Range Division. Before you today, we have a briefing on two items. The first is Capital Improvement Program, and the second is a Transportation Improvement Program. We have staff that will present to you an overview and some level of detail on each of those. But I would also like to note that this briefing is being broadcast today, which is not typical, but in an effort to continue social distancing, we've asked other department representatives not to attend the hearing and therefore watch the briefing instead, as well as the general public. Now, if there are questions that you have, I feel that we can answer a lot of those, but if there are some that come up that we cannot, we'll sure follow up with those departments and then get back to you on that information.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay. I will turn it over to Kelly Van Bruggen to talk about CIP.
All right.
Hello. So I am the lead on the CIP project, and it's been a really fun process. We switched software at the very beginning of this process this year, and so it's been quite a work effort, but it's been really good to work with the different departments on this, and I think it'll integrate much better with how things are run at the city, especially with our finance department in the future. So this capital improvement program is fiscal year 2020/21 to 2025-26. And just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go through the CIP process in totality, as well as what the planning commissioner's duties are in relation to the CIP. We'll go through a little bit of the departments and their highlights, their specific projects that we'll call out, and then we'll turn it over to Alan to discuss the TIP. So the workflow, we distributed materials back in November of 2019. Again, changing software, there was a lot of work leading up into that. A lot of the departments had already worked with the software previously, with finance on the operating budget side, but there were some new folks to that. Then the departments were to submit their CIP projects in January of 2020. And then during that time, or after we received the submittals, we started putting together the book that is now published, as well as working within the software to come up with more innovative ways to display information for the public's view. And so between January and today, we worked with the Mayor's CIAC committee and the different departments to put forward what you now have in front of you. We will have the public hearing on the CIP on April 15th, and then the first 2 years of the CIP, or the budget, will go to City Council with finances operating side in August. So at the very beginning of the process, prior to that November date where we send out materials, we work with the CIC to develop a letter and instructions to the departments on what they should be considering when they're submitting their projects. Again, we work on a 2-year budget cycle, so we do this every 2 years. The first 2 years of the CIP are what moves forward with the budget, and then the years 3 through 6 are kind of identifying the needs of the community further out. They also need to consider the comprehensive plan as a primary reference for staging improvements. So all of their projects should be in conformance or generally listed within the comprehensive plan for those that are moving forward. We also use a priority rating. We have a 3-tiered system. They identify A, B, or C. So A is urgent, B is necessary, or C is desirable. It helps kind of identify where those projects fit within what they'd like to do. Also use a little bit of outcome-based budgeting. We have new budget outcomes that the mayor had developed with this process. So we've now moved to 5 different budget outcomes. They're safe and healthy city, strong and resilient city, vibrant city economy and quality of life, equitable and inclusive city, and then innovative and operationally excellent city. We also ask the departments to take a look at what their existing facilities are and how could we better enhance or use those facilities, and then what do we need to do or build for new growth in the community. And then we give some ideas on funding guidance. We ask the departments to take a look at their projects and then apply a 5% inflation rate to those projects. So a little bit about the format. As I mentioned, we used a new software, but we kept the book with a similar look. So we have the project name at the very top. We have the budget outcome, so those new outcomes that we got from the administration. We have priority rating in that upper right-hand box. And then we do our finding of conformity, and we identify that in the public-facing document. And then we have the 6 years of funding sources, and what those funding sources are anticipated to be on that. So a little bit about the CIAC, or Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. They develop a working version that's used by the committee, and the committee is made up of mayor, staff, planning, Lincoln Transportation Utilities, and finance. Departments give presentations to the CIAC where they discuss what they have submitted and what their needs are over the next 6 years. It really helps the CIAC try to make decisions on what really needs to move forward, especially in that first 2 years of the CIP. We hold multiple meetings. Again, that happens prior to that November dissemination of materials, where we talk through what the inflation rate needs to be, and just different things that the mayor's administration is interested in. And then we work on a lot of revisions in February and March after those department presentations, and moving forward with what you see on the public side of things. So the version that you have, review capital requests to determine level of conformity with our adopted comprehensive plan. So staff does a lot of the behind the scenes work where we go through each project individually, where we find a level of conformity. I'll get more into that process here shortly. But those comments, your comments, are forwarded to the CIAC and then to City Council once you've had a chance to review the document and look through it and see if you agree with staff. And then again, those first 2 years of the CIP will be adopted as part of the capital budget. So a little bit about the finding of conformance. We have 4 levels. So in conformance, generally conforms, it's not in the plan, or not in conformance. So we use that 4-tiered system in an effort to show that easily for the public. So in conformance with the plan means that it complies with the proposals of the comprehensive plan. Generally conforms, it may not specifically conform, but it does in general terms, and it doesn't conflict with any of the proposals within the plan, and it doesn't impair the implementation of the comp plan. If it's not included in the plan, it just hasn't been studied or presented in the plan, but that also indicates that it won't conflict with any portion of the plan. And then not in conformance with the plan, that a project varies significantly from the proposals within the plan, and it could be in conflict with other proposals of the plan. During staff's review of all of the projects, we found that they either were in conformance or generally conformed with the plan. So a few factors that we use in that recommendation is explicit reference, if it specifically calls out something in particular, the plan's intent, location of the project could have a factor in that, timing, and then what we receive for project definition and description. We also rely heavily on the mapping tools that we have created within the comprehensive plan, land use, especially, or with the LRTP as well, where we anticipate future projects for transportation, trails, things like that. Also to note that the capital project, this is pulled specifically from the city charter, where we take a look at what constitutes a capital project and really use that underlined portion, the useful life of 15 or more years, as kind of a guidance for what goes in there. So we do ask departments to review all of their projects and determine if they meet the requirements that are set forth in the city charter. We also note that we do include vehicle replacement and streetlights. Sometimes with vehicle replacements, they receive federal funding, and so it's helpful to have a local document that shows that there is dedication of local funds for those federal funding dollars. Now we'll move into the department highlights. On the left side, we have all of our non-LTU projects, and then on the right, or departments, and then on the right, we have the transportation and utility departments that have projects that move forward in this Planning Commission version of the CIP. Aging department, they only have one project in their they are asking to replace 2 transport vehicles with federal funds and a 20% local match on that. And those are in years 2 and 3. They would replace 1 vehicle in each of those years. On the library side of things, the replacement of the downtown library and upgrading of all branch libraries is now showing in year 3. So outside of the CIP, or outside of the budget years. We do show some other critical projects that are being funded within those budget years. So the Isley and Walt Branch parking lots, resurfacing those, Isley and Walt Branch roof replacements, those haven't been replaced since the buildings were built, is my understanding. So that's a critical need for them. And then to replace the bookmobile is another project that they're looking to do within those budget years. LES is unique to us, so they follow a separate budget cycle, and they've already presented to City Council, and that budget is what is incorporated into the CIP at this point. We do know a couple projects that are going on. So from the last CIP, the converting overhead to underground lines has increased. So it was 1 million, and now it's moved to 2 million per year. And then the LES Operations Center was quite a large sum in past CIPs. And now we're showing that there's funding still in this current CIP, but only in 2021. For our Parks Department, we have an ongoing general revenue for the emerald ash borer treatment and replacement of trees. In the CIP, we also showed the new project, the Haymarket South Park project that's shown in that picture there. And then we also have in there the Wilderness Park Master Plan improvements that they'd like to move forward with.
And the Haymarket South Park would be what maybe had been previously identified as West Park, is that correct?
Yes, it was West Park in the downtown master plan.
Okay, okay, thank you.
We combine our fire and police into one department, public safety. So within that, fire has their top, they've discussed their top need is modifications and repairs to their fire stations. That's shown with funding in year 2 with $11 million, and then they have an additional sum of money out in year 6, and they're undergoing a study to determine what extent of work needs to be done currently. We also have a joint public safety request, so both fire and police in year 6 for an emergency operations center. For our urban development department, we have several projects. They have a continuing project for the downtown irrigation. as well as downtown public improvements, so some landscaping, things like that. A new project, the West O Entryway project, that's been undergoing a study by Urban Development recently. And then a large portion of their program is also parking operations. So they have a few projects in there like the command center, parking meters, and then elevator modernization for the parking garages. Okay, moving to the Lincoln Transportation Utilities side, we have Broadband Infrastructure. They have one ongoing project within their department. So again, replace, update, and expand the infrastructure for public and private use is included within the CIP. For solid waste, they have continuing project for recycling drop-off site improvements, which might be helping with the asphalt or signage or things of that nature. And then they have a project located in their biogas to vehicle fuel project. That's out in year 3, and that would be hinging on some developer funds assisting with that project. StarTran, they have their maintenance facility relocation proposed in year 2, where they're using some grant funding for that. Again, with the federal funds where they need to include the local share of their portion, bus and handy van replacement. They're also looking at purchasing charging stations, so moving more towards those electric type buses. They have a continuation of the multimodal transit transfer center study. And then in year 2, they've put in the transit development plan update. So they did that back in 2015, where they evaluated the routes and moved to the fixed stop system. This is kind of a continuation where they do updates similar to what we do with the comprehensive plan, where they review things and then present that to the public. Wastewater, so with the shift to the new system, they also reorganized their projects. They put them in categories, infrastructure and new growth categories, which has been really helpful for people to take a look through. And a lot of the growth projects are focused in the Stevens Creek and Southwest areas. And we included the map that's at the back of each department CIP, specifically related to wastewater, so you can see kind of the extent of their projects. We also have water. So they had 2 new large projects that are included in the CIP in year 1. They're looking at mitigation projects at the Ashland Wells. Those would utilize FEMA funding on that. We do also know one project to highlight is looking for a new source of water, as we're talking about kind of resiliency and everything that had happened last year. They have an ongoing fund where they can set aside money to potentially look at new sources of water in the future. And then watershed management, they have a typical GEO bond schedule that they're on, and these would call for bonds in years 4 and 6 of the CIP. So I'm just pulling up a map that of all the water projects that are happening in the community. Transportation, they did an overhaul of their department as well. So they have main categories: transportation system preservation, growth, and optimization, where they incorporate a lot of their larger projects within those categories. They also include a base level of $2 million for sidewalk maintenance and repair in the budget years of the program, and then show an increase of funding in years 3 through 6, just based on the level of need that they're seeing in the community. Since they moved to these really large project categories, they have been doing a lot of work on developing a project website where you can find more details. They've done a really excellent job with the Lincoln on the Move funds, and so this is very similar where you can go and see specific projects and get a lot more detailed information than they can previously with the CIP. We do have the CIP Online available for you as well as the public to go on and view. You can view the entire thing or specific departments as you'd like. And then the next steps in our process. So April 15th, we'll have the public hearing for the finding of conformance with the comprehensive plan. Those findings are forwarded to the mayor, CIAC, and then on to city council. The first 2 years of the CIP will be given over, well, the entire CIP will be given over to finance, and then those first 2 years will move forward as part of the overall city budget. Any questions?
No questions about the process, I don't think, but I do have maybe perhaps a related question.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, Kelly, that it's something that you could answer, but there has been some discussion in the development community in terms of the wanting to see when a developer goes through a redevelopment agreement with the city and either pays for or contributes for road improvements, contributes for stoplights, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. A list of outstanding liabilities, if you would, that the city has agreed to construct at some date in the future, but may not have a date. It is a capital improvement. We're talking about capital improvements, but capital improvements that may not have a date within the 6-year plan, but just, and perhaps this list exists somewhere else and no one knows about it. And maybe it does, I don't know, but could you speak to that, or does that make sense at all, Paul?
So I think you make a lot of good points, and a lot of these items are typically enclosed within an annexation agreement or some kind of development approval. And I'm going to estimate here 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago, planning and other departments realized that there were a lot of outstanding items, and it wasn't all put together in a cohesive place, and we weren't sure kind of, especially in a CIP process, what obligations there were, what the timing was, just in one consolidated location. And so at that time, several years ago, there was a consolidated effort amongst departments to come together and talk about those. A lot of it was road contributions, having to do with impact fees and developer contributions on those. So we did get a much better handle on that. From what I understand, a lot of those are being handled either through the CIP or are on the developer at such time that they have development going on and can contribute to that those will be improved at that time.
Sure.
So
I didn't know if the city had a running list that in terms of transparency, could be shown as, I guess potential liabilities for city spending going forward, or wiping out projects that will never happen.
Right. I think
because of a change in
this,
circumstance or what have you.
And we can follow up more on this, like I said, if we need to. A lot of this was discussed during Lincoln on the Move with the ACT group,
Okay.
the Advisory Committee on Transportation. Mm-hmm. And when considering growth projects, developers were saying, okay, well, we do have this agreement and, this is something that we should look at. That was part of those discussions at that time. So a list of those projects is available on the Lincoln on the Move website today. So
Right, but those are not projects. That's not the exhaustive list of everything that the city has an agreement with a developer on. Those are just the ones identified by Lincoln on the Move that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Our chair's here, so I'll turn it over to her.
I'll turn it over to Alan.
Okay.
Sorry, trying to get the presentation to go, but little technical stuff.
Alan, I think everyone at this point in time has just been dealing with whatever technical problems
Take
we
your
may
time.
have. So really, take your time, my friend.
Yeah, keep working on it. It's good.
I think we're good. Yes, and my name's Alan Zaft. Good afternoon. And I'll be giving a overview on the Transportation Improvement Program for the draft document from fiscal year 2021-2024. This will go before the Planning Commission April 15th for a public hearing, basically to review the proposed document for conformance with the current long-range transportation plan for the MPO. Also just want to note the long-range transportation plan serves also as a chapter component of the comprehensive plan, the transportation section. So I'll be giving a background on TIP, the development process in the projects. The Lincoln MPO, Metropolitan Plan Organization, is fairly required to adopt a TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. The purpose of the TIP is to provide a document with a coordinated list of transportation projects designed to meet federal requirements. These projects either have to receive federal funds, the project has to be subject to federally required action, and regionally significant. And what I mean regionally significant, for example, a major capital roadway project, like on a minor or principal arterial, but it may not have federal funds, but just want to identify those projects in the TIP. The TIP is coordinated, in regards to, it's developed and coordinated with the State Transportation Improvement Program, the state TIP. And the state and MPO TIP has to be updated annually. That is required by the state. And the TIP comprises of a four-year schedule of projects, and the proposed TIP is from fiscal year 2020 to 21 through fiscal year 2023 to 24. And that's the federal fiscal year. That's from October 1st to September 30th. And also, the TIP can also be modified throughout the year through an amendment or administrative modification. The TIP must be drawn or be consistent with the Lincoln MPO LRTP. And also the projects have to be fiscally or financially constrained, which means the projects have to, or identified in TIP, have to show the current and proposed revenue sources. And when you go into a TIP, each project that's identified, it shows the project funding, its schedule, and the budget by phase. And what I mean by phase, that could be like preliminary design, right-of-way, construction. And then also the TIP is coordinated with the city, county, state CIPs. And that's also including the 1-6 road and bridge programs for the city and county and also the state. A lot of folks don't know, but the state also has a 1-6 program. They call theirs the Surface Transportation Program. The geographic area of the TIP covers the MPO planning area, which you see here. It's basically entire Lancaster County. I'm going to the coordination and development process for the TIP. What shows here, the TIP is developed by the MPO project coordination of the technical committee in coordination with other agencies. When I make coordination with the technical committee has a project selection committee that meets throughout the development of the TIP. And we work with different agencies in regards to developing a TIP. Like early in the process, I sent out a call for information or input for folks to put their projects into the TIP. And that includes agencies such as the Nebraska Department of Transportation, Lancaster County Engineer, LTU, StarTran, the Airport Authority, Railroad Transportation Safety District, RTSD, and other agencies related like Bikeped projects like Lincoln Park and Rec, Lower Platte, South Natural Resource District. And also we also reach out to other cities such as Hickman and Waverly too. The TIP must go through public review, and we do a 30-day comment period, which started actually yesterday, and then it goes to the Planning Commission for their public review, and then the comments are included into the final document. But once it goes from Planning Commission, it goes to the Technical Committee for the MPO for their review and approval. or a recommendation for approval, and that goes to the MPO Officials Committee, and that goes for final approval. Then the documents forward to the Nebraska Department of Transportation, and then they include it in their state TIP. Type of projects they're programmed into the TIP are capital improvement projects, and that's like widening and new construction, major maintenance and resurface and rehab projects, ITS projects, traffic and operation management programs. For example, that's like LTU's system optimization program or category. Safety and operational improvement projects such as signal synchronization, widening shoulders, and then also include other modes or alternate transportation modes into the in the TIP. That includes like transit improvements, trail projects, and van pooling. And what you see I'm going to go over here are maps of the different projects by the different respective agencies. And the first map is showing the projects for Nebraska Partment Transportation, and there's showing 9 projects in the TIP. The first one I'll mention is the roadway capital project, which is South Beltway, so we're excited about that. And then some other projects. There's 3 roadway and bridge rehab projects, 1 roadway rehab project, a bridge replacement project, and a culvert project, and 2 maintenance projects. Stop me if you have questions too. Next map is the projects for Lancaster County, 3 projects. The first one is a safety improvement project relating to Saltillo Road from 27th to 68th Street, and the 298th Street projects, which is basically from A to O. From Old Cheney to A would be going from gravel to asphalt, and then from A to O there's nothing there, it would be asphalt surface for that corridor, 2-lane corridor. And then next are the projects for LTU. And we're showing 9 projects. But what we do, the TIP shows the 5 project categories for LTU, which is transportation system preservation, transportation system optimization, transportation system growth, and transportation of livable neighborhoods, and transportation sidewalk program. In regards to the first 2 programs, the transportation system preservation, they've identified 7 projects in the TIP that are using federal funds. And then transportation system optimization is identifying 4 projects that are using federal funds. And then we're also going to break out or identify 4 specific projects at TIP. Even though they're not using federal funds, they're seen as regionally significant projects. The first one is the Lincoln East Beltway, and we're showing there in TIP for corridor preservation. And the next 3 is the 14th and Warlick Old Cheney Road project. And we're noting in TIP that's on hold. And then the third one is the West A Street from Coddington West to city limits, and that's a new pavement project with intersection improvements and a multi-use trail and so forth. And the last one is the 40th Street from Yankee Hill to Rokeby project, and that's new pavement and two new lanes for pavement, turn lanes, and a raised center median with 3 roundabouts.
Just real quick, remind me how we notify everyone in that area, because we did have something last year where if that person would have addressed their issue during the project, they might have been able to come to a solution that we could have approved. Is everyone notified by mail, or how do people know if they're not associated with the project?
So for different roads projects, that would be obviously managed by LTU and possibly their consultant team.
Okay.
I can't speak to the specifics of notification, but I do know that there's multiple means that they use. Online is a heavy presence.
Okay.
And then the dynamic messaging road signs have also been used for projects. That's pretty much what I'm aware of, but we could follow up on that also.
Yeah, if we could on the 15th, that'd be outstanding.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see if there's a possibility of perhaps neighborhood inclusion way further upstream in the design process or something of the sort.
Perfect, thank you.
You see here is a map of the StarTran projects. They're identifying 13 projects in the TIP. That consists of bus and handy van and vehicle replacement and purchases. Kelly mentioned, charging stations. Also includes bus stop amenities, like benches, shelters, and pads, and signage. Security enhancements, that's like improving facility surveillance, enhancing the cameras in the buses. Computer hardware and software replacement or upgrades. And we're only showing one specific project on the map. That's the building and renovation improvements at the StarTran building. And then the next map is we have 4 projects shown for Bikeped and Trails. The first one is the Rosa Park Way Trail project. That project should hopefully go to advertisement for bids this summer, which is before the current federal fiscal year for this TIP, but we've included it in here just in case the project's delayed. So hopefully it doesn't happen. And then the second project is the Beale Slough Trail extension. And the third is the Fletcher Landmark Trail from 14th Street to 27th Street. And the last one is the Wilderness Hills Trail project, which will continue the Tahara Williamsburg Trail from about 37th Street and Yankee Hill Road going south to Rokeby. It'll break out into 2 segments. And next map is one project for the RTSD, which is the 33rd and Cornhusker VSF Corridor project, which entails like removing activity crossings and making roadway improvements in that area.
Which year is that in again? Do you know?
They have the PE and right-of-way and construction program there, but not the entire construction because we don't have a particular year. Help me here, Paul.
The project continues to evolve.
Yeah.
The planning department was part of the sub-area plan and corridor enhancement plan, which will likely come back hopefully sometime this year for some review of this body. But the construction year that is being proposed or looked at is somewhere around 2026.
Okay. So we'll see a few things coming up for the public to comment on and things.
Mm-hmm.
Ongoing public comment for that project will, yes, continue as it has been. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
When that project gets to the environmental phase, there'll be a meeting for the project.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't have a map here shown, but the TIP also indicates improvements for the airport authority, like improvements to runway sections and things like that.
Okay.
And what you see here is a TIP schedule. The MPO Project Coordination Committee met 3 times throughout the development of the project, but the last meeting was March 6th. They basically stamped the recommendation for the TIP to go forward, and it goes to the commission for the public hearing April 15th. Then it goes to the MPO Technical Advisory Committee April 17th. Then to the MPO Officials Committee May 1st for adoption, hopefully. And then after that, we submit the TIP to the state to be included in the state TIP. And then they have a public review for the state TIP with the MPO TIP for us, for Lincoln MPO and the remaining MPOs for the state. And after their public review, it goes to Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration for their approval. Then October 1st, the TIP goes into full effect. Any questions?
Can you go back to the airport authority one that's not on there, but basically with Offutt building a new runway, there were improvements to be made in the Lincoln runway and other areas. And that obviously was not ever listed as part of a 1 and 6 year plan. So when you've got one that comes like that, I think it had all federal funding behind it. Does that just operate outside of the TIF program?
They do include the projects that get FA funding in the TIP, yeah.
Okay.
And in the TIP, there's a listing of the airport projects in there.
Okay.
I can't remember how many, but yeah.
But it was not listed until they decided to totally replace Offutt's runway, and then saw needed repairs in Lincoln's runways. Okay.
So I finally got the map pulled up so I could see it closer. I'm looking at the LTU one so basically the city projects. And I'm looking at number 1C, where it's, they're working on Randolph. Can you tell me, like, where that's at in the project? Do you know? Like, is that going to be early on in this, you know, like, is it going to be 2021, or is it going to be more towards 2024?
They're in the process of hiring a consultant to do design on that. So I'm guessing, not seeing the TIP document, I'm guessing construction's probably in fiscal year 23 or 22, 23. If I did see the document, yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
Do you have the tip pulled up online? If you,
Is it?
yeah, I have it pulled up.
Oh, awesome.
If you just escape out of that.
Oh, it's not there. Oh, there it is. I used the wrong browser. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, I see. I pulled it up.
Yes, they're showing construction, yeah. In fiscal year 22, 23,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you
And-
share that or not? Can you share
your
that
screen?
screen, Paul? No?
How do we do that?
Well, and it's okay. If you click on that document, I just pulled it up
Thumbs
on
up.
my computer. It lists everything, and then it talks about the years and what
Mm.
amounts in each year.
Do you think, Alan,
Perfect.
you could email that to us?
I sure can.
That link?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So there was an email sent out this morning that
Yeah.
included links to both CIP and TIP documents. That's what we've pulled up.
But
Is
it
the
only
TIP
goes to the
document.
page,
Yeah.
and you have to know what to click on the page. That's why it took me a while to figure it out.
Okay, so it is a proposed TIP over on the right
Yeah.
that's on the webpage link that we sent to you.
Okay, perfect.
But if you need more direct links, I mean, just reply and let us know.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna give final comments on the fact that we did send out the links, but I already did that. If there are any other questions as you're reviewing the documents or how to get to something, please let us know. We'll try to prepare those and get those answered prior to the 15th or at the 15th meeting, in addition to the questions that have been asked, which I've noted, so,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
okay? I think that's all we have for you.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great job. That was awesome.
Hey, Shams.
Well, do I need to adjourn us or anything for this
For a
part?
briefing?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I was
Maybe
like,
give
oh.
thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Up, thumbs down.
Yeah, it would be nice to know if the TV was off.
And it doesn't
Did David-
look off.
Okay, so I think.
We're on still.
Close this down.